If I am spinning my stick counterclockwise, why is the cursor moving clockwise?
Is your toilet in Australia?
Nope.
I don't know.
We're
That's my
alive,
best guess.
guys.
We are. Hello, everybody. I'm MunchaKoopas.
I'm Fur.
And I am Covert Muffin. I'm going to be passing this match between these two excellent speedrunners. Today is going to be Hyperlight Drifter, new game alts, all bosses. So if you did a normal playthrough of the game, you might have seen a different Drifter than what you'll see today. So it'll be good. But we are good to go if you guys are ready for a countdown.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll do a countdown just in case something weird happens with delay.
Yeah, sure. Go for it, Fur.
Alright. 3, 2, 1, go.
Good luck, guys. Alright. So, starting off here, this is a glitched category, so you're going to see a lot of out-of-bounds movement. The first thing that's different about the Alt Drifter is that we actually don't have the tutorial sequence, and so we just start in this bed, and that is like a 2-minute time save about. Then coming out here, right after they activate this waypoint, they did a door glitch in order to clip out of bounds. So while the door is opening, like for a few split seconds, they can actually dash right through the door. And the main reason for doing this is if you exit the normal way, there's this silly little cutscene where you have to stand and wait and look at the middle. If you activate that cutscene once, it's not there for the rest of the run. But if you door clip, every single time you come back to town, you have to do the door clip again. And it's pretty tough to do consistently. So in Hyperlight Drifter, the main goal of the game is to go in each of the 4 cardinal directions, collect 4 purple modules, and then activate a pylon. And then also in this category has the extra constraint to kill every single boss that is featured in the game. So we're going to be seeing a lot of really hyped boss fights and stuff throughout the run. But as our runners are heading to the east first, as a gentleman's agreement to just go in the same direction to start, they're going to be collecting these little golden squares known as bits. And when our runners collect 4 of these small bits, it forms a piece of currency. Then back in town, our runners can go and purchase upgrades by spending this currency. However, they are only going to be purchasing 1 upgrade, and that is going to be Chain Dash. And that's really the only one that saves us a good bit of time in the speedrun itself. And is going to be important to collect. So as we are going through, we'll see on first screen in the bottom right, you'll notice that he's now approaching and collecting the first purple module. And this is going to be 1 of 4 that he'll be collecting. There are 8 in each location, but the 4 that we're going to be collecting here are going to be the fastest ones. So that being said, you also saw him pausing and unpausing the menu while the cutscene was playing, showing him that he collected the module. And this is a trick known as select buffering, which allows you to move when the drifter is normally paralyzed. Yeah, so that being said, also another important aspect of the drifter is that right now, because they don't have chain dash, they can only dash in sequences of 3. Then after these 3 slow dashes, there is a small cooldown portion before they can begin dashing once again. So it's going to be important for our runners to sort of space out their dashes in really concise manner in order to be able to move through locations in the shortest period of time. Then after we get chain dash, this cooldown is mitigated, and we can think of resetting dashes in certain other groupings or pairings. But really with slow dashes, it's just all about the pairings of them. That being said though, if you dash up against the ledge and you don't end up falling off, you get this thing known as a dash reset. And so this is going to cause the game to consider you to move back to the first dash. So even though the max number of dashes you can do in a sequence is 3, oftentimes if you get a dash reset, you can go up to a maximum number of 5 or more, depending on how many resets you do. So here on first screen, you just saw him do a pink door clip. So this is another door, and so you can just easily just clip out of bounds and then go through to the next module. That was really nice. The pink door clips are some of the hardest ones, especially with the sprite of the Alt Drifter, which is a little bit skinnier and it requires a little bit of a weirder standing position than you would normally think. And so we see Muncha also doing the same as Fur is going to head to the next area. So Fir showcasing another pink door clip as well in the following area in order to get into the flame room. Normally you need a key in order to get into this room. However, because we can just sort of dash out of bounds, you can make your way to the transition zone of the door. That being said though, when you're dashing out of bounds, you can't actually ever tell what is solid ground and what is just void that you'll just dash and fall off into. And so, like a lot of the resources for like learning glitched categories is just having these maps of MS Paint diagrams showing you where you can dash out of bounds and where you can. So even though it looks a little bit easier, it's definitely not at all. And especially in this room, like the flame torch room, this movement here is actually pretty precise and really difficult. It's very easy to sort of take a hit and get knocked off. But over on first screen, we're going to see him also do probably the hardest out of bounds movement in East, where you can dash to is in very, very small locations, using this raising barrier as he enters the arena to clip out of bounds. And this is probably one of the harder out of bounds movements to learn in the run itself. Oh man. Yeah, so that being said, as you see, Muncha just took a lot of damage there, and it's so hard because with the Alt Drifter, some other additional properties are that the Alt Drifter has a max health of 3 instead of the normal 5 of the regular Drifter. And so because of this, the run itself becomes a lot more difficult. Not only this, but the Alt Drifter also has a faster rate of attacking and a faster rate of movement. So there's a less cooldown period for the dash between groupings of dashes, but also between the individual dashes themselves. Then when they get chain dash, this sequence is going to be further increased in speed and rate as well. But we'll talk about that a little bit later on. But now Fir collecting the first 3 modules, heading through the 3 module door, is going to be moving through, continuing to collect currency and fight off certain enemies as he goes into arenas. And so a cool part of this game is it forces you into combat in certain areas where you have to kill a list of enemies before the barricade lowers, but also oftentimes you can actually just use these barricades in order to get out of bounds and such. So now we see Muncha also very close behind. This race has actually been very close so far. And East is like not one of the simpler areas as well. There's a lot of like really tricky select buffering movement you can do. Because after you collect 4 golden bits to form that piece of currency, there's actually a small cooldown, etc. But over on Fir, you just saw him do a shuriken skip, very difficult setup, and he was able to get that first try, which is insanely impressive. But also we're going to see Fir open the boss door and then head over to collect... oh no, he's not going to go for that bit. He just went in straight for the boss. So there, Fir messed up a cool new like cutscene skip where you fire a pistol shot and then dash into the boss. It's a lot more difficult with slow dashes because the pistol shot actually gets off of the screen. It actually despawns before it hits the boss, so it can be a little bit unforgiving. But still really nice boss fight coming out of Fir to quickly kill him down. So Muncha also is going to be going for a really silly and insanely difficult skip, which is going to be a shuriken skip here. We're going to see if he is able to get around the boss initially in order to pick up the shotgun, which deals a lot more damage. But yeah, so we see Fir now also collecting the shotgun. The shotgun is going to be another powerful variant of a ranged weapon that we have in this game. The pistol only deals 1 damage, but it also takes 1 ammo. And so the 1 ammo of the pistol is actually a lot less than the single shot from the shotgun. So normally we think of recharging ammo by using primary attacks, which refunds a little bit of that energy. And for the pistol, it's a 1-to-1 transaction. So with that, when you do a primary attack after the pistol shot, what ends up happening is you refund the ammo. So the pistol is a lot more ammo efficient, which means that you're able to just attack with the pistol consistently as long as you primary attack afterwards. But now we see Fir picking up Chain Dash, and Chain Dash is going to be probably one of the most powerful upgrades in the game, if not the most. And the reason for this is it greatly reduces the cooldown between when we can dash. And of course, dashing is a lot faster than walking in the game. And so the quicker that we can dash, the better. However, in the top left corner of your screen, you'll notice a gray meter appear for Fir. What this means is that he now has a stamina gate. And because of this, if he excessively uses abilities, he'll run out of stamina and no longer be able to do it. So in the case of Chain Dash, if he runs out of stamina, he's going to revert back to slow dashes. So a lot of the routing of this game is dashing in sequences of 2, which is the most stamina efficient. The reason for this is that the first dash of every single chain is always considered to be a quote-unquote slow dash, and so that requires no stamina. However, if you do sequences of 2, only one of those dashes is using stamina, then you wait for a little bit of time to reset your dash chain, and then you can start a new chain from that. And so, that being said, also you can dash in sequences of 3 or more. However, each subsequent dash requires the same amount of stamina as the second dash. So you can run out of stamina really, really quickly in areas if you're not careful at all. That being said, though, if you dash in sequences of 3 or more with Chain Dash, and you run into a wall, what ends up happening is you go through a stun animation, which is known as bonking, and this loses us time. Because the routing in this game is pretty well optimized, it's pretty important that we have the most efficient manner of moving, especially wrapping around corners and stuff. So if you do a sequence of 3 and try and cut a corner, you can accidentally bonk and lose 2 seconds on the spot. And that time adds up really, really, really fast. But both of our runners are doing a really good job of navigating through so far. North is not easy to work through this quickly. So here we see another barrier skip from Fir in order to enter the transition zone for the 3-module door. So even though he only has 1 module because of that barrier skip, he is able to get into that 3-module door way earlier than he is expected to. And so that was really, really good. So North is mostly just sort of cutting a little bit of corners and then going straight for the boss. In any percent, there's this really crazy situation where you can change your Z-axis value in order to be able to walk through walls. And so this allows us to skip having to do North boss. However, because this category is all bosses, what we actually end up having to do is go kill the boss anyway. So you may as well go through the 3-module door, collect this module you see Fir collecting now with some nice select buffering, and then just go do North boss mode. So that's really nice. So here on Munch's screen, we're going to see him working through a cave of enemies. These enemies all deal 2 damage and are extremely scary. But Munch is doing a really good job of working his way through and not taking any substantial damage. Because probably the biggest time loss is going to be deaths. But here we go, Fir on North boss. It's going pretty well so far. Yeah, nice. He played that really, really safe, which was good. Sort of waiting out those bosses' attacks is going to save a good bit of life, because each one of the North boss's attacks also deals 2 damage, and so it can be very scary because a lot of the area of the map gets covered in these attacks, especially with the following pathways that you saw there. But for getting that boss kill first try with a 3 health Drifter is really, really impressive, and the shotgun definitely helped a lot with that. Because with the shotgun, we actually are dealing 5 damage instead of the single damage of the pistol. And so because of this, we're able to sort of make work of the scarier bosses a little bit safer and a little bit easier. So that was a great boss fight. So upcoming here, we see Muncha also approaching North boss. This is going to be really huge for him. If he can take a really clean North boss fight, he is definitely going to be in a good position in this race. But North boss is pretty notorious in the run itself for being really, really difficult. Because every single time the boss also deals damage to you, you get stunned, but the boss is not stunned. So it is just constantly able to deal tons of damage consistently. But he got a really, really nice pattern from the boss and really clean execution from Muncha. That was a really insanely good fight. Nice job, man. That was so impressive.
Thank you.
So good. Yeah. That being said, it looks like Fir has collected the pylon, killed the boss, and collected all 4 modules. He's back in town now and is going to be heading towards West. And West is going to introduce a new type of clip, which is going to be known as the transition clip, followed by something known as a pistol clip. And these are going to be 2 methods for us to be able to easily eke out of bounds and skip huge portions of the run. And this is a controller-only trick. So both of our runners are running on controller because that is absolutely going to be the fastest way to get through a glitch category.
My controller is better.
You sure about that?
Uh-oh.
Nah, it probably is. Don't worry.
Oh my god. The meme lords. That being said, we see Fir now collecting the first module. He's going to be showing off the transition clip in an upcoming area very shortly, as Muncha is going to be heading back to town now for West. So right now, Fir is in the lead by a bit, but Muncha is definitely not far behind at all. So here we go. We see the transition clip followed by the pistol clip. The transition clip, if you dash on the first frame after going into a new area, you actually skip over the transition zone before it's loaded. And so because of this, you're actually able to stand closer to the edge of the map. Then, using the aim function, which is only bindable on a controller, you can actually end up eking yourself even further out of bounds, and then you can just dash around the invisible wall that's holding everything together. But a really, really nice clip from Fir, and then Fir also doing some more absolutely insanely difficult and precise out of bounds movement as well, making it look really easy. This is absolutely insane to watch. So upcoming here is also another clipping method you just saw Fir do, which is something known as a crystal clip. It was a little bit hard to see there because of the select buffer, but there is going to be a really clear one coming up very, very shortly. That being said, we're going to see Muncha's turn now to go for this upcoming transition and pistol clip. Dashing in West out of bounds is really scary. Not because it's hard to sort of stand on ground and dash to places you can stand, but more importantly, in West, there are pockets in these trees that you can't see that are back inbounds. And so because of this, you can fall into a hole and just not be able to dash out. And this costs a lot of time because you actually have to quit out and load the previous checkpoint if this happens. So we'll see what ends up happening to Muncha here. Yeah, nice. That was really clean. And then also showing off an arena skip as well, just by walking into a transition zone. What are you doing there, transition zone? And then also continuing on with some crazy out-of-bounds movement in these trees. Geez, both of our runners just making really quick work of these out-of-bounds movement. This is usually a huge, decisive moment in the speed run for being able to see who is getting further ahead and behind. But both of our runners are doing an insane job getting through these sections. So upcoming here is going to be a really scary movement area for Fir as he went through it. And so this is known as the ice or the crystal bridge, which is really notorious because sometimes the game just throws in dash auto correction angles. So you'll be like holding your control stick horizontally to the left, but instead your drifter dashes down into the left off of a ledge, thus falling and taking damage and losing time. And this is like positional based, so based on where you're standing, the game will try and auto-correct you in different locations. And it can be a little bit wonky as well on the alt drifter. That being said, though, Fir is going to be coming up now to the West boss. And West boss has a really cool exploit associated with it. We're going to be sequence breaking the boss's sort of AI pattern by dashing up here into the left. What this causes the boss to do is free his allies a little bit sooner instead of going through the full first phase. And this allows us to attack him for the Oh, yeah. Yeah, it can be, like, so tough, and, the boss's hitbox is really, really small, but Fir was able to keep a level head, bring the boss away from his allies, and kill him off. If the boss is really close to his allies, they can actually interrupt your attacks if they hit you and stun you, setting up the boss to be able to perma-stun you and kill you. So that was a really nice, clean fight from Fir. That boss is so terrifying. And then upcoming here, we're also going to see Fir go into something known as Dogeland, as Muncha is going to be trying his luck across the ice bridge of autocorrect dashes. And Doge Lane is the scary movement portion where these dogs can just absolutely destroy you. Oh god. Nice. So now Muncha has gone through the 3-module door, which means he's going to be approaching the boss as well. We're going to see if he can have just as clean of a boss fight as he had with North. If he can keep this up, this is definitely going to make up a good bit of time. But now Fir is going to be heading towards south, which is going to be the last of the cardinal directions that we have to travel to into the game before we head back to town to face the final boss. And south is probably the scariest portion of the run, not because it's just like later in the run, but it's also going to feature some of the most unforgiving areas in the entire run. There's going to be a lot of transition clips, a lot of pistol clips, and a lot of places where it's very easy to lose a ton of time to a death. And then just tons of high-density enemies just all over the place. So Muncha making quick work of the boss, another really clean fight from him. This is really impressive to see from our runners. And then he's also going to be heading down to Dogeland, which is absolutely terrifying area. Once again, only being on 3 health, and then having the dash not be a dodge is going to allow for enemies to be able to just perma-stun you and kill you. So Fir making quick work of 2 of the scariest movement sections in South. Let's see how he does here in the arena. And then these crushers also coming up are going to be one-hit KOs if they hit him. But he's able to get through. It looks really nice and clean. A little bit low on health kits. Can be a little bit scary in the upcoming areas. But the good news is that there's going to be a lot of safety health kits you can get. And Fir is going to be coming across the first boss in South. And usually each of the cardinal directions only has 1 boss, but South is going to feature a plethora of bosses. So it's going to be one of the most high-density areas of these typical boss fights. But this one's a little bit more forgiving. You just have to kill it out before it begins its initial phase of moving around, as we see Fir quickly clean this up. So Muncha now is also in South. He's going to be heading to this waypoint and then following up with the same insanely difficult movement sections that Fir was able to tackle, where we're going to see how he can do. So upcoming here, Fir is going to be going through some transition zones in order to try and transition clip, and then pistol clip out of bounds in order to be able to sequence break to collect some modules, as well as reach some of these extra bosses a little bit sooner. Because he still has 3 bosses to take out, and so these pistol clips help speed up the process. So far, so good from Muncha this arena. He's going to try and skip the cycle. Let's see how he does. Oh, man! Yep. Yeah, dude, this arena is just so insanely difficult. Really nice safety heal coming out of Muncha as well. And then killing off the final cycle to be able to get through the crushers. That is so spooky, dude. And now what Fir did with this boss is he actually entered from the top because he used the transition clip and pistol clips to be able to get into him. This allows you to attack the boss a little bit sooner and take him out for a beautiful, like, 1.5 cycles. Really, really nice. And now Muncha is going up against the boss, where we just have to blink with the shotgun in order to be able to kill it fast enough before it's able to move around. It's really nicely done. Yeah, so now that Fir has killed the other 2 bosses, he's going to be entering the area for Arch, I believe, is up next. As Muncha is going to be heading back to town in order to try for the transition clip in order to be able to get through to the Bullet Baker boss that Fir was able to dispose of. So as we're going through here, Fir is going to be dashing around some silly explosive containers after collecting this module, as you see. Oh, God, the rocket, dude.
Oh my gosh.
That's so great. Oh man.
Good job, Charles.
Yeah, would it be? Yeah, so we named that rocket trooper back there Charles. What a guy. So Muncha now also just nailed that transition clip, and pistol clip, and he's going to be approaching this next boss. And we're going to see him a little bit more clearly enter and approach him from the top. You're supposed to collect that module after you kill the boss, but because we have that pistol and transition clip, we can get to that location a little bit faster and a little bit sooner. So upcoming here first, going to be doing some crazy movement in the next room, where what I'll end up doing is dashing up and then bringing the drifter a little bit over a ledge, and then when he does this, it's going to allow him to dash onto this like micro platform before approaching Archer. And so upcoming is Archer, and Archer is going to be one of the scarier bosses in the entire speedrun, just because being on 3 health and having tons of projectiles all over the place is very difficult. Also, Archer moves really fast around, so if you let Archer move away from you, it can turn into a pretty long and arduous fight. So we'll see how it's doing. Yeah, it looks good, man. Yeah, nice. The one cycle is really, really good and clean. So now Muncha is going to be coming up to Charles, the Rocketeer. As he dispatched him before he was able to even shoot one rocket. The cruelty of this world. Yeah, so now Fir has killed the quote-unquote final boss in South. He still actually has one more to go. He's going to be activating this pylon here, and then teleporting back to town, and then heading off to kill that final boss in South. And so the Scyther boss, I believe, Fir, are you gonna just like plink him out? Is that what you're gonna do?
No, I'm not gonna do that.
Okay. Alright, are you gonna do the silly strat?
I'm gonna do the silly strap.
Yes, dude. So usually, as you've seen throughout the speedrun, you saw the Drifter clip out of bounds using barricades. Well, bosses can't exactly do that, so I'll let it be a little bit of a surprise as Fir has to go through some really tricky arenas here, trying to skip over killing enemies while they're just all running at him and trying to stop him. Then taking like any damage in these areas can be extremely unforgiving as well. And now Muncha is also coming up to Archer. Let's see how his fight goes. Oh, baby. Yeah, so as Archer is shooting these volleys of arrows, it moves around into certain locations, and then it'll go back to the center after a certain number of rounds in order to let up a volley of mines. But the nice thing is that Archer is standing still during this duration, and so we can normally kill him off. But that was a really clean fight from Muncha as well, just to also say that. Really nicely done, guys. These boss fights have been...
No, I messed it up.
Yay!
No.
I gotta actually fight him now. I didn't practice this.
Good. Good.
Oh, no. Oh god! Jeez, Fir.
Alright.
Did you get the barrier threat second time?
Yeah, I got it.
Nice, nice. Yeah, so as you saw, as the palisade or the barricade rose up, it pushes the bosses off of the ledge, and because the boss is not supposed to fall off, it just instantly dies as it hits the death plane, which is an absolutely glorious way to kill a boss.
See, that boss is just too hard to kill, as I just showed, so we just make him do it to himself instead.
Yeah, speedrunners are pretty well known for not being very good at video games. Shots fired. Yeah, so we see Fir now has collected all 4 of the pylons, each quadrant of modules going through each of the cardinal directions. Now he's back in town, heading down to the final boss. The final boss is going to be sort of a sigh of relief because all we have to do is shotgun plink him to death before he actually starts his attacks during each of the phases. And we have just enough ammo to be able to do this in each of the phases. So this is like a pretty nice and relaxing boss fight. And so now we see Muncha is also going to be going through this ridiculous arena where there's just all of these dash autocorrects and invisible walls you can just, for some reason, run into. but he made really quick work of it. It was really impressive. Could be very unforgiving. So here we go. Fir has activated the final boss. We're going to see what happens as he's able to work through. Oh, yeah. So what Muncha tried to do there was he tried to dash in order to avoid taking damage, but it's a really precise timing and really insanely difficult. But he was able to get a pretty clean fight, playing it safe, and was able to take out the boss in due time. Nicely done. Aw, yeah. And as you see here, Fir is making quick work now, going through the second phase of the boss. One more phase for Fir, and then he's going to be able to dash through to the very end. So timing is going to be coming up for Fir really shortly. It's going to be when his screen fades to black after dashing downwards. So Fir, I'll let you call time for yourself, because I have a 10-second delay.
And time.
GG. So now Muncha is going to be heading down here. The dashing in this area is actually also really important because there are no cough cutscenes for the Alt Drifter, so it can be very easy to run out of stamina. And so doing 2 dashes down these staircases is like extremely important. Otherwise, you'll like get to the door and be doing slow dashes for the last little bit. So now Muncha is activating the final boss as we speak. We're going to see how clean his fight is going to be. Aw, yeah. Whoop. I think that was a sub 30 for you,
Was it? I don't have the stream up, so I can't check.
Oh, looks like the timer stopped on 30:06. It looks like.
It's not bad.
Yeah. Yeah, so the final boss can be really unforgiving, as you see. Just like each of its attacks can just absolutely knock you down and stun you. And then the follow-up attacks are like pretty much layered, so it can be just very easy to take a death there, especially with the 3 health with the Alt Drifter. So you can like realistically only take 1 hit. Alright, and so time's going to be coming up for Muncha as well.
Okay, Drifter. I'll just hold straight down. You won't do anything. Time.
What?
Yeah, straight down equals downright. Definitely.
Yeah. Oh, totally.
Yep.
Yo, GG.
GG.
GG. Thanks for commentary, Muffin.
Yeah, dude, my pleasure.
Yeah, it was really good.
Yeah.
Aw, yeah. Anyways, guys, if you're interested in picking up this run, there's a lot of helpful resources. If the out-of-bounds stuff is a little bit intimidating, or you're a keyboard and mouse player, we all are, and stay tuned for some other excellent runs.